It is great to be here with you guys today. I'm Julie Neumann, the Chief Marketing Officer at Honeycomb, and we have Graham back with us, our SVP of Product, and we are now joined by Matt Nelson, our Chief Revenue Officer. And we just heard earlier from Christine and Charity about the larger macro shift that is happening right now. And for this panel, we wanted to really talk about making it real, getting into the real world. You guys are talking to engineering teams every single day. Let's talk a little bit about those real world challenges. What are you seeing in the teams that are tackling these things every single day and are really seeing how they can move their businesses forward?
Yeah, thanks, Julie. I just got back from a trip in Europe and spent some time in London with a bunch of customers that we have over there. We were at AWS Summit, and it was interesting talking to organizations that run the AI gamut of maturity, AI natives to global 2000s that are sort of earlier in their journey. The themes are pretty consistent with what they're sharing about what's happening. The first thing is they're pushing a ton of agents into production, some more than others, but they have agents that are running in production today. Those agents are directly or indirectly impacting their customers. And maybe a great example to share is what's happening with Intercom, with Finn, their AI chatbot. Finn is handling millions of customer conversations across thousands of organizations. And the metric that they really care most about is their resolution rate, which is looking at the number of conversations that complete from when they start to end using their chatbot. And one of the indicators that tells you whether the resolution rate will be successful is the time to first token. And so they're measuring the time it takes to get those first few words back from Finn. And the challenge that they had towards the middle of last year is that resolution rate started degrading and the time to first token was going up significantly, and they didn't really understand why. They knew what was happening, but not why. They brought Honeycomb in largely to help us deeply understand that problem situation. Today, this resolution rate has gone up. It's at the highest level they've ever had it. Their time to first token has dropped below 7 seconds. It's a really successful story, but the problem that Intercom had, that Finn had, is really consistent across all these organizations. They understand what's going on, they don't understand the why. And that's a major problem.
So I'd add one layer to that. The teams that I'm talking to, they're not just missing visibility, they're missing it in a way that surprises them because they thought they had coverage, right? They have an APM, they instrumented their services, they feel like they did the work, and then the agent ships, and they discover that everything they built was designed for a world where you pre-decide what matters, right? You pre-aggregate your data, you pre-build the dashboard. And the model works when the failure is predictable, and unfortunately, agents are not predictable. The specific moment I keep hearing about is when a team tries to answer basic questions, like which tool call failed, why did the LLM actually return this thing versus that? Why was this interaction for an agent 3 times as much as this other one? And they can't answer the question, not because the data doesn't exist somewhere, but because nothing connects the dots. And so every LLM tool call, every invocation, every downstream service hit needs to be a queryable span with context. Most teams don't have that. The ones that do, the ones that went into the agent era with high cardinality, event-based tracing, they're already in place. Those teams are shipping AI features with confidence. And what we're seeing is the other ones are firefighting in the dark.
That firefighting in the dark is such a great explanation, I'm sure, for like really what it feels like for people. So what do you guys think when that happens, when there is unexpected cost overage, something behavior that was unexpected? Like what are these teams reaching for? Like what are they trying to do? What do they want to do?
Yeah.
What do they need to start doing?
Well, to start with, they're reaching for the tools they already have, and that's where they begin, right? And so I think they're reaching for those existing observability or APM tools they have in place. They're trying to use those to understand the signals that are there. And usually what they can find is they can see around the edges, they can see that something has happened. A spike in cost overrun, latency has increased or degraded. So they can answer the what happened, but again, they can't get inside to see why that happened. And that's really the problem, because the tools that they're using were really built off of this premise that you decide in advance what you're going to look at and what will really matter. You're going to create those known knowns or those kind of known potential unknowns into the future. But when that doesn't exist and you have this unexpected situation that's occurred, you don't know really where to go. So you go back into archaeology mode. You start piecing together partial logs from your systems. You're manually correlating different timestamps. You're trying to reconstruct what that agent did to understand what was happening on the inside. And that isn't just happening from these organizations that are shipping AI, product for the first time. These are from top AI organizations struggling with the same thing. You can have excellence in building AI systems and still be flying blind when something goes bump in the night.
I think about it like trying to understand a chess game by looking at each piece individually. And so you can see the board, but you can't see the game. And what's missing is that connected view, right? Every model call, every tool invocation, every handoff and sequence, if you can query that in real time, instead of restructuring it after the fact, you don't see an average of metrics. You get to see the actual thing that happened. And that's where we've built this agentic timeline. What we're trying to do is help teams see for the first time what that multi-agent workflow looks like when they can see the whole flow and pinpoint exactly where it broke. And so the reaction is almost always, we've needed this since the day we shipped the agent. We just didn't know what to ask for. And we've seen some of the largest scale tech companies in early access right now seeing this signal and giving us great feedback that this was a gap they weren't monitoring. It's the sort of shape of software that they're happy to have an answer for now.
Okay, so I want to double click on that. We said people, they're doing logging, they have dashboards. So why isn't that enough? Why isn't that working for them now? Like, what is it about the shape of agentic software that is breaking those traditional models?
So I'd actually flip this around. Agent observability should accelerate your foundational observability. Traces are actually more important now than ever. And if you've ever had high cardinality traces flowing into a connected data store, you're 80% of the way there. And so if you add in Gen AI semantic conventions, if you instrument your tool calls, if you use the same platform to debug your API debugs that your agent uses, you've got the foundation and the agent era is going to be good. The problem is you can't bolt it on after. And so Duolingo is a good example. So millions of users are interacting with AI tutors. They see the full experience end-to-end in Honeycomb. They see the front end, the back end, the model, and it's all connected. And a standalone LLM tool only sees the agent view. And so when your agent fails because your auth service is down, those tool calls can't see that. We can. And it goes in both directions. So Canvas is our AI investigation workspace. Our customer Neumann has 10 times the users in Honeycomb now because of Canvas. And so product owners, business analysts, people who would have never opened a trace waterfall are asking questions in plain language. We have a large customer that actually caught a real incident before their own systems paged them. And so the same AI that helps you observe your agents is actually making your humans faster too.
It's all of the things that Graham just shared really highlight the problem that traditional observability tools have. They were built for a deterministic world with very clear directions, but that only works if your software behaves the way that it was designed to behave. And as we know now, agents don't behave that way. They are non-deterministic by definition. Every tool call is different. The path that they're following is shaped by what the model determines. And so what breaks today didn't even exist yesterday. So no one saw it coming because no one could have seen it coming. So at the end, APM really isn't broken. It was just built to answer a different question. Did this known thing fail? And the agent era forces us to ask a different set of questions. What does this thing actually do? It's not a feature gap. This is not like something that we're just going to bolt on. This has to be fundamentally a new and different tool.
Last question now. The teams that are getting it right, what are they doing? Do they have a similar tool set? Is it process? Is it just the way that they're approaching the problem? Like, what should engineering leaders that are starting to tackle these problems right now, what do they need to be thinking about and what do they need to be doing?
Yeah, I think the thing that I see is it isn't a common set of tools or even necessarily practices. It's a mindset shift. I think these organizations are making a decision well before they ship that software that observability has to be a prerequisite. It cannot be an afterthought. Because by the time that you realize you need visibility, like it's already too late. That's why you need to start this thing at the very beginning. I think the AI documentation platform Scribe is a great example of an organization that has fundamentally made this shift throughout their entire organization. Today, they put instrumentation as a part of their design phase. Every single piece of code that gets pushed out, it has been built with observability at its core. And they're doing it in part because as they move into this AI era, they recognize that they need to treat every single step an agent takes as a first-class observability event, not because they know where something's going to break, but because they have no idea where it will break.
Yeah, so every one of those decisions is being made before they ship, right? Observability is a prerequisite, not a follow-up. One of our design partners, pretty large bank building multi-agent systems, told me, I will not allow any agentic system to go into dev unless I have observability. And I need to know what each LLM is doing, and this is back and forth, right? I want to capture every invocation, every tool call, and that's the mindset. So the last thing I'll say is we learned this ourselves from teams building and tuning our own agents for the last few months. And the biggest lesson is honestly humbling. Agents work best when they automate existing workflows and they automate existing experts. And so the goal isn't autonomy for its own sake. It's creating fast feedback loops between the human who notices something is off and the system that learns from it. And so one agent, well observed, connected to a good data, is worth more than a swarm of agents running blind.
Thank you both for sharing these stories from the field. I think they were super illuminating. And as you were saying, Graham, we have OliCon coming up next week. So we're going to have so many more of those types of stories of real customers with real challenges and like those hard-won, battle-tested, real insights from how they are dealing with these environments and these new challenges in the agent era. So we hope to see everybody there next week. We'll have Salesforce, Slack, Stripe, MongoDB, a bunch of great teams sharing those insights. And we also hope to see everyone back tomorrow for a little bit more on what's coming with our big launch this week. Thank you guys both.
Thanks, Julie.